Hey guys, as many of these videos start with, I'm starting this off with a question that I proposed over in the Discord, and honestly, if you're not in the Discord, still, the question is what are you waiting on? Because you could actually weigh in on some of these things and talk about what's going on here, but my proposal in the Discord actually came from an X post, as many of them usually do. I mean, we're sensing a pattern here, with the question that was weighed, and I'll link the X post in the description here below. It's older. It's a couple days old at this point. It came out on June 16th. Donald J. Trump Daily News put out with a big flashing red light, or the emoji for the flashing red light. Should you be allowed to run over protesters blocking traffic without fear of consequence? The commentary that's in there, and it's basically what you would expect for the commentary from this, is a large amount of MAGA aligned people who are saying, hell yes, brother, we should go down and run all them there dang old protesters down, and they're blocking out the traffic, and just run them down. They'll learn and get down there, and they get out of the road, and my truck is bigger, and the litany would go on forever. Now, I am not a MAGA supporting person. As many of you know from the video that I put out both about 6 months before Election Day and then on Election Day after I went out and voted, I did vote for Trump, but it was one of the more begrudging votes that I've ever done. I was not impressed with what he did with spending in his first term. I'm not exactly impressed with what he is doing with spending in this term, and I kind of predicted a lot of that. I mean, I could go back and sit and do another 20-minute video just on that stuff, but I want to stay on topic for this one here and just bring up the idea of, should you be allowed to run over a protester blocking traffic without fear of consequence? And really, honestly, the answer is no. Now, the first thing that I'm going to preface this with is, if you are standing in the middle of the road because you want to go back out and make a protest, then whatever consequences happen to you, you have come out and accepted. And I know, I actually know what the rationale is behind this, based on an X conversation that I had back when I was still Twitter a few years ago, when people were talking about the means productions and basically stealing the means production, although they were saying that they were going to take over it peacefully, and et cetera, et cetera. Somebody was trying to explain anarcho-communism to me is what it was, and they said that they were just going to get the means of production and take it from people, and I said, well, how do you plan to do that if the factory owner moves out and takes all his equipment with them? And they said, well, we'll stand right in the middle of the road and block the truck that's taking it out of there, and if he runs us over, then we're going to reach in and kill him because it's self-defense. And realistically, that is one of the aspects of doing these middle-of-the-road protests, is they're actually attempting to... The rationale behind doing a blocking traffic protest, from everything that was explained to me from the anarcho-communists that explained this to me, was the idea of trying to either inconvenience people or get themselves run down so that they can go back and take over the system in a form of self-defense. Now, I have always been against the middle-of-the-road protests. It is highly unsafe, first and foremost. I do not want to see people get harmed. I am first anti-war. I'm not a pacifist by any means, and if somebody screws with my girlfriend or my daughters, you're not going to see a video or a live stream from me for a very, very long time, because I will be in the midst of the court system, because if somebody screws with my girlfriend or my daughters, I'm going to be going to prison for a very long time. But with that being said, now going back onto this, now we're staying, and I'm straying a bit off the topic of, should you be able to run these protesters over? My gripe with the middle of the road protests is not the regular commuter traffic. That's between the protests and you. The guy sitting here trying to get to his 9 to 5, just wants to get to his 9 to 5. He's mad enough, and then you're inconveniencing him more. Maybe, for the most part, I do think that all you're going to do is turn people away from your side, because really realistically, a lot of people, especially middle of the road to right wing, are not as political as you would come back out and say. Or as a lot of our friends on the left will come out and say. I mean, they live under the understanding that anybody that's to the right of them sits back and worships at a church of politics and Trump is their Christ and everything else like that. But realistically, these people just want to get to the office, the factory, the wherever it is that they want to go spend their money, to go do the things like that. And it's, for the most part, a minor to a major inconvenience for them. Now, where I draw the line is emergency vehicles, obviously. If you're sitting in here and there's this major middle of the road protest, you've got an ambulance coming and somebody's bleeding out inside the ambulance. And then all of a sudden you get to the highway and it's deadlocked, it's gridlocked. Now, hopefully with modern technology, we have found a way and the ambulance driver can go back and route around these things, but sometimes it's not even close to the quickest way to get there. And I think that there should be laws in place to make sure that the emergency vehicle, the fire truck, the ambulance, can get to the hospital in the quickest way possible, because otherwise you're putting people's lives at risk when you're doing these protests. But now then comes the question of, should it be legal to go back and run them down? Now, there were people left and right in this thread. Well, okay, that was probably the poor choice of words to say. There were people all over the place in this thread who were coming back out and saying, because they weren't left or right, they were all what's perceived of as right. I still don't think the MAGA movement is necessarily a right-wing movement, but they're all perceived of as right. But there are people that are in every third comment saying, fuck around and find out. Yeah, we come in, you block the road, then we're going to come in here and we're going to run you down because you don't have the right to impede us and false imprisonment, and you don't have any right to the roadway, and my truck is bigger. All the stuff that I listed up at the top of the video. And it's all good and well that they come out and have this sort of, what would I say, I don't know, this bravado of politics, that they have this upper hand and everything's not precarious and everything else like that. And they really do believe in their hearts that they're in the right on something like this. And realistically, I don't think a single person who was in the X comments who was coming in here with that false bravado would actually have the stones to go back down and outright deliberately run down a peaceful protester on the middle of the road. I think that a lot of them are keyboard warriors, and honestly, I think a lot of them are feds. If you want me to be completely honest, trying to get other people to go back out and say, oh yeah, we'll go run them down, and they start taking IP addresses and start putting these people on watch lists, etc. But it comes off to an interesting dichotomy, especially with the explanations that were going on in the Discord when we were having the conversation and I don't want to quote directly because that would be adjacent to against the rules of my Discord, but with one person pointing out the fact that yes, it is a form, especially if you form a major traffic jam, of false imprisonment at this point. Now, I draw a distinction, and I think a lot of people are very confused on Florida law about this, over whether or not, and this is similar to what one user posted, is there's a difference between inching forward and then a person either deciding whether to retreat or basically playing chicken with a protester, versus coming out at full speed and 100 miles an hour taking a protester off the hood of your, I don't know, 98 Buick Century. There's a big difference between the two of these things, but the biggest problem that I really have with something like this and the idea of being able to run over a protester blocking traffic without fear of consequence is the without fear of consequence side, and how it's going to get used, especially in our very, very, very tense political situation where, I mean, we've got a small man with a beanie wandering around West Virginia just muttering "Civil War" to himself constantly. He's just wandering in the woods in West Virginia. Civil War, Civil War, Civil War. And right and left, I think that there is a lot of thirst for something like that, and I can't believe I'm even saying these kinds of things. I will remind you that back when I was still writing only, not when I was doing videos or anything else like that, when I was writing a blog, I predicted a lot of what we're seeing right here, right now. I predicted an upcoming civil war. And this was all the way back in 2012. I looked at this and I said, yeah, we're the way that the tensions are divided between Romney and Barack Obama, who, if you closed your eyes and, well, not close your eyes, but if you just read a transcript and you took the names out of it, took the voices out of it, you wouldn't have known who was on which side, because they were saying pretty much the exact same things on the debate stage. There is next to zero difference between Romney and Obama, except for skin color and who was perceived as evil at the time. But back onto without fear of consequence. I don't think that that's right. I don't. Now, if you are in a situation, and this is where some of the state laws are written to try to protect you for, if you are in a situation where you didn't know there was a protest going, you didn't go out of your way to try to avoid it, you just happen to be driving through downtown, get stuck in traffic, and then next thing you know, you're being swarmed by a group of irate protesters. I don't want to put political party into this, even though I think a lot of people watching this video are going to put one political party, one political movement or another on that. But you're wandering around, driving around downtown, just trying to go take in the local fair of your hometown, and the next thing you know, you're being swarmed by people with signs, throwing rocks, and things like that. And you try to be nice, you try to respect what it is they're doing, but the next thing you know, they're beating on your windows, calling you a capitalist and a fascist and everything else like that, and you slam on the gas to go and get away from them. I don't think that should be consequence-free. No. I think the law should be written in such a way where, you know, you have your day in court and there is leniency for genuine fear of life. Because I've seen some of these protests evolve into situations of genuine fear of life. But regardless, I mean, you should still be able to you should still have to go into court and explain your side, especially if somebody dies, God forbid. Because you were trying to get out there, protect yourself, your family, if your family's in the car and things like that. It's no different than somebody coming and kicking down the door in your house and you pull out the Desert Eagle and put 4 half-inch holes in your wall and 3 half-inch holes in the person who kicked your door in. Guess where you're going? No matter what it is, no matter how much security camera you have around your house, no matter how much ring camera you have, no matter how many eyewitnesses around you saw the guy kick in the door, wave a gun around and go back and try to rob the place, you pull out your sidearm, what's in your nightstand, what's in your backpack, you pull out your firearm and take out an intruder in your house, you're going to jail until the law gets through and sorts itself out. Running down a protester is not going to be any different no matter what the laws in the state say. My final point on this topic, and then we'll close out the video, and I might make another one, but I'm probably going to go make some homemade pizza instead, is how something like this would be used if the law were to be changed in a point, like say in Florida. We'll use Florida as an example because that has one of the more lenient, you can run the protester down if you're in genuine fear of your life laws. You know that because if you read the X post and all the comments below it linked in the description, you'll see a bunch of people saying, hey, we can do this in Florida. That's right, you come down here and protest in Florida, we're going to go get in our truck with the truck not signing the Salt Life sticker and run you down. Even though that's not what the law says. But if the law were to get changed in a place like Florida, where you could, as Donald Trump Daily News is proposing, completely run down a protest. Oh, hey, guess who didn't turn off his volume before, or his ringer before he started recording. But you get the law changed to where you can, with complete impunity, you see a protest and it blocks you, you can just step on the gas and run through it and not have to worry about getting arrested, go in and do anything, and you just keep driving, and the state is just going to wave at you and say, that's awesome, and you did great, and all the other fantasies that the left makes up about right-wing states and how they deal with protest. In our thought experiment, that's what the law is in Florida. Somebody was stupid enough to do this law. The first protester that is going to get run down in the middle of this protest, the first time there's a protest after that law changes, the very first protester that gets run down is going to be run down by a lifelong Democrat in a brand new pickup truck that got lifted the day before by whatever custom shop it is down there. And he's going to be wearing a MAGA hat, and he's going to have a Trump flag and a Russia flag and a swastika flag in the back of the truck, all still completely neatly creased because they just came out of the package an hour ago off of Amazon or wherever they ordered them from. And he'll mysteriously get in a big shootout with the police and die immediately after the fact. And then the next thing you're going to hear is how he was once registered as a Republican in a state far, far away back in 1989. And he'll never be able to answer for any questions for it. I did find it ironic, by the way, just touching on that and basically the false flag equivalency, or the false flag thing that I've just brought up in our little thought experiment here. I find it interesting that the idea of somebody coming down and being able to run down protesters blocking the road with complete impunity came in 3 days after we started having a major, massive nationwide debate over whether the whack job in Minnesota is a Democrat or a Republican. With so many people who are in the same comment thread believing that the shooter in Minnesota is a Democrat because of his ties to Tim Walz, and going through and shooting Democrat politicians. 3 days after we started having that debate, people think that the law should just be changed so people can run down people protesting in the street with impunity, not thinking that something like that would get used against them immediately. Like right now. The day after that gets signed into law, I guarantee that somebody on the left is going to go buy a new pickup truck off the lot and then go take it over to the custom shop and lift it. And then go buy those flags on Amazon and hang them in the back and stick a guy with a few screws loose in the driver's seat who still votes Democrat all his life and send him through that protest line. And then they can come back and scream how evil and violent the right wing is. That's all that I have to say about this. Take care. Think about what I said on this one, and weigh in the comment section below if you if you think one way or the other on this one. Maybe you think I'm completely out of my mind on something like this. If you think so, put it in the comment section, or the link for the Discord is going to be in there. Come in there and go into topic chat and tell me I'm out of my mind on that. I don't know. Take care.